Been your best week so far, hasn't it? Definitely. So welcome everybody to the National Counties Cricket Show. And once again, we've got a guest from around the National Counties and joining me this week to chat all things T20. And there's a very good reason for this one. Mr. Brad Wadlan, head coach of Wales National County. How you doing, mate?
Very good. Thanks for having me again.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. I said off the record, I'll say it now on the record. Fair to say you guys have had your best week of the season, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. We had a good day out on Tuesday against Gloucester.
Hmm.
The boys have been sort of getting ready to put that type of performance in. I
Yeah.
think over the last couple of weeks, I say a couple of weeks, probably the last couple of years, we've
Hmm.
been putting sort of that team together. So it was nice for it to fire on the day, I guess.
And what was the in your mind that sort of difference between what would have been a disappointing start to the T20 competition against Bedfordshire to what happened down against Gloucestershire, beating a first class county twice?
Yeah, well, look, I think Bedfordshire I think from looking at the scorecards and things, I think you'd look and say we bowled pretty well in the first game to restrict them to 125, I think it was. So we thought, the wicket was difficult wicket, in fairness, but you still, if one person comes off in that type of game,
Yeah.
and yeah, unfortunately we didn't win, and then Nye got off to a flyer in the second game, got 50 off 20 balls, and showed his class. So it's great having someone like him around, so the younger guys can watch and see how a pro goes about his business.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's almost like over the last year, it's been building towards we've got potential in that team.
Hmm.
I think the addition of Rodri Lewis is a massive addition to us because all his cricket that he's played for Berkshire in previous years in a very strong team, winning team as a genuine all rounder, like
Yeah.
he's just added huge value to us.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, that middle order that you had on Tuesday against Gloucestershire with Henry Hurl, Billy Root, Rodri Lewis, that's just power packed, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? Like there's no fear in that middle order, and that's the biggest thing I think we've tried putting on to the players is like we want you to be positive, we want you to be proactive, we want you to look to score, and Rod just typifies that down to a P. I think his second ball he went in game two and slog swept Van Buren for six, then reverse swept him for four, and then slog swept him for six, and it's not a it's a confidence. I think when you give players confidence and they feel backed, I think it just you can start to see something in players, and it gives them a bit of a free rein, really.
Yeah, and that would obviously have something to do with the big ton that he scored the other week, where he got a big ton for his club side with bugger all balls, didn't he? Basically,
He did, yeah. He got his club side St Fagans chased down 315, I think it was, and he got 130 off 80 balls. So he's a fine cricketer. Like I mean, he could play as a batter, he could play as a bowler. He's a genuine all rounder, gun slip fielder. So he absolutely adds maximum value to that Wales side.
absolutely. And I know you were going into this season really hopeful, in particular, with like George Thomas had been signed to come and play for Wales National County, but then he ended up going over to Sussex, and good on him to get a contract over there. But it must be great to be able to replace him with someone like Billy Root.
Yeah, well, look, Billy's is he's a very experienced cricketer. He's been around for a long time, knows the game inside out. It was actually at his home ground, Usk as well.
Yeah,
So he's really keen to play. He lives literally 10 steps from the ground, so he wasn't late.
yeah.
um, but Billy, you can just see the value, like even in the warm ups and just being around the group. He's very hands on, Bill. So it was fantastic to have him around the group.
Hmm.
And just watching him go about his business in the second game and how he timed his innings.
Yeah.
Like he got himself set, like knocked it round, and then just exploded at the back end. And I think that's such a good learning for people like Callum Nichols, Henry Hurl, Tom Norton, our younger sort of Glamorgan players who are newly signed.
Hmm.
It's good for them to watch. And I think Henry did that. Henry got himself set batting with Billy, and then he went bananas at the back end as well. He had 5 sixes and 1 4. So got himself set and then went. So it's brilliant for them to have people like that in.
Yeah, we're talking about the batters quite heavily there, but the bowling group, they did a job that they've not been able to do so far this season in terms of restricting first class players effectively, all the way from the opening ball to the end, didn't they?
Yeah, and again, you look at it's an exciting team, and I think that's the thing. It's with them being quite young, we're going to have some different results, I guess. But in
Yeah,
terms of when it clicks, it's very exciting. So Ben Morris, obviously a Glamorgan pro, Tom Norton is on the academy, has been around with the Glamorgan first team during the Metro Bank.
yeah,
And then the two spinners, Alex Russell, who's outstanding. He's a wicket-taking bowler,
yeah.
wicket-taking leg spinner. And then Rodri as well. You've got like two very, very good spinners with a lot of quality, and then you've got the two bowlers with good skills as well.
Mm,
And then youngster Ollie Rayner as well, who's bowls very well in power plays, off spinner,
yeah.
and takes up that challenge really well. So
Mhm.
it's nice. It's a nice mold of players to sort of try and develop and move forward.
Yeah, and I think what stuck out for me was across the two games, 40 overs bowling, there was only one bowler who went for double figures at any point, and that was Rodri went for 10.25 in one game, but I mean just over double figures. Everyone else is single figures playing first class county over two games. Big tick in the box for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I think in fairness to Henry, the captain, we had a chat at the end of game one where he bowled Roger, and I think the last over went for 22. And Van Buren batted very well. He got 90, I think, and took 22 off the last over. And we
Huh.
said maybe in hindsight you'd go back to
Yeah.
a steamer rather than the spinner. And that's just learning. But like I said, it's a young side. I actually went the other way, and I said, no, it's good if you back Rodri to bowl that penultimate
Mm.
over. Let him do it, and look at it as a credit rather than a negative.
Absolutely. And, we talked about the fact that the Bedfordshire games didn't go your way, and the way the NCCA season spread out at the moment is slightly strange having that 1 week of T20, then you have to wait again because the quarterfinals of the trophy are on. This weekend, you've got Oxfordshire in the T20s, and it'd be nice to get a run now of using that confidence going into them.
Yeah, it will. I think it's nice actually how the NCCA have done the fixtures this year. I think the 50 over comp early season is brilliant because it just gives guys opportunity to get themselves in and to play and build a bit of form really. And then the T20s coinciding with the Blast, it just works. It just seems like it all aligns really really well. So yeah, I think Oxford naturally are very very strong, good side. They play positive cricket. So hopefully, we'll be at full strength, and we've got a couple of Glamorgan guys that are available for us. So we may have Zainal Hassan as well, who will offer us, with the bat and the
Yeah.
ball, which can coincide with our younger players and hopefully bring them through in the key roles in the game.
Have you been looking at the fixtures to see whether Harrison Ward's playing for Sussex or not yet?
Well, it's always one. You look at Oxford and you think Harrison, and it's a plus thing that the T20s are coinciding with the Blast because he's such a dangerous, dynamic player that you get it wrong to him, and he'll do down. And last year he did against at Wormsley. I think he got 90 against us, or 90, 94
Mm-hmm.
up at Wormsley, and he's so dangerous when he gets going. And I think last year's form that he showed in the Blast, he's one of the probably the standout players last year.
Yeah, most definitely.
So fingers crossed he'll be with Sussex.
Yeah, definitely. But as the season's gone by for Wales, I know that the trophy didn't exactly go the way you'd want to, but you had real issues when it came to availability there in particular, didn't you? Because a lot of your guys now are signed by Glamorgan, playing twos cricket and having to bugger off up north, for example.
Yeah, it was. I think the 50 over campaign started. We felt we could get a really really good team out,
Hmm.
and probably 12 or 13, and stick with that group. And then very quickly, with different fixtures being added to the schedule, we obviously didn't have Henry and Callum and the guys who we thought we would see a bit more of. But then ultimately that opened up doors then for other players to come in and take some opportunity. So Jack Kennedy played
Yeah.
a couple of games. Will Ryan, Kean Davis came in and scored 100. Sammy Khan came in and scored 80. So even though it didn't quite go to plan, it actually opened the door for a couple of other players to stand up and put their name in the hat, which was really, really pleasing as a coach.
Yeah, and the irony, of course, being that you're there to actually to support Glamorgan, and then national counties are there to support all the first class counties and develop players. So it's just great to see so many people like Callum getting that chance now and push on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that link, I think, probably in the last sort of 12 months has got a lot closer, which maybe in previous years it wasn't quite where it was. But the communications now is really important going forward. And I think naturally, if there's a good link, you look at the Glamorgan second team that were due to play today against Northampton. I think 9 of the 12 have played for Wales in the last 12 months. So it's nice that we've got that link coincide, and if we can help, someone like Billy who wants a bit more time in the middle, absolutely. If you can have the opportunity to get someone like Bill in, then we'll take.
And it's a natural fit, isn't it? Because unlike all the other first-class counties who don't directly have a national county below them, for Wales National County and Glamorgan, it just fits hand in hand, basically.
It does, because we're probably one of not many counties that look to sort of probably go more dominant with younger players. So for us, it's obviously the Glamorgan link is brilliant, but we use it mainly, I guess, for sort of 18 to 24, 25-year-olds with a couple of senior players in that team. So naturally, we're always giving younger players a bit more experience. So the results may not be where we want to be, but it's opportunities then for players. So then if we can push people into a Glamorgan setup or get them a contract, then that's almost a tick for us. And rather than winning a big competition, which we want to do, but ultimately if we can get 4 or 5 players signed in a 2-3 year window, then that's great for us as well.
And if you looked at the start of the season between the trophy, the T20 and the championship at the end of the season, which would have been your first target? Would it have been the T20?
I think with the way the fixture schedules are and how the second team games work out and things, having Henry, Callum, Ben Morris, Tom Norton, potentially Billy, Zane, having those available in that middle T20 window is probably, that would be the competition we would go and try and target.
Yeah.
50 over comp, we were quite happy, like I said, having, adding Rodri Lewis to the team, Russell being available all year, thinking that we would have Callum and Henry. I think we did think white ball cricket, we could have a real good crack. And again, the red ball stuff, in the last 2 years, we've done relatively well in red ball cricket.
Yeah.
So we are keen to really try and push in that 3-day format. But as you said, the T20 one is definitely probably our strong suit at the moment.
And it's very noticeable from the games against Bedfordshire and the games against Gloucestershire that there's one name missing in particular from the lineup, and that's that of Mr. Brad Wadlan himself. You've done with T20.
Yeah, look, I think I said during the winter, I played a little bit of it last year, and I just felt as coach, it's a fast-paced game. It's high intensity, energy, and stuff. And I've still got that energy and drive to play, but I think me playing just takes away an opportunity for someone else. And like I said, gaining someone like Rod who bowls left arm spin and bats, it just made sense for Rod to sort of move into that position and me take a back seat and allow another opportunity, I guess, for someone else.
But you'll be back for the championship, I'm sure.
Yeah, I really enjoy 3-day cricket and red ball cricket. It's something that and Cam Herring, who's a good friend of mine, he's obviously the captain of that, and he's the exact same. Cam's been outstanding this year in league cricket. I think he's got 350s and 200s already for Pontydiddle. So he's itching for red ball cricket. So yeah, I think us two will come back into that red ball team. And like I said earlier, it's an opportunity at the moment in the white ball window for someone to stand up and get some form and to try and push to get into that red ball team then.
And we always like to ask, I mean, we're 7 or 8 weeks into the white ball window right now. You've played up against a number of counties around and about for the NCCA so far. Is there anyone in the opposition that you've seen that you maybe didn't know about? I think, well, hang on a minute, there's one to keep an eye on.
Well, interestingly, we played Dorset in the 50 over comp first game of the year, and Dorset are pretty good in terms of their team stays relatively similar all the way through. And they had a left arm seamer, Joe Carson, and he bowled very well. He left arm made you play every ball, decent pace, and just following him how he's gone. He's obviously done quite well in the quarterfinal. I think he just picked up 3 wickets. In the quarterfinal, and I mean, you look at Dorset's team on paper, and name for name, they've got a very, very strong side. And in previous years, you had Sam Young into that team and David Scott. But the way they develop their own sort of players and their own style, like Tripcone's been outstanding for Cardiff Uni. He's got a double 100. He's got 170. So I think they're a very good aligned team, and they got lots of very good options in terms of spin and seam up front. So I think Dorset are one. Cheshire naturally are always strong.
Yeah.
But Dorset for me at the moment are one of the stronger teams that I've seen in probably the last 2 or 3 years, and they look like a solid side.
Interesting. So when it comes to the old semi-finals of the trophy, that's the one you'll be keeping an eye on, is it?
It is, yeah. So interestingly, again, probably part of my club brain as well with Penzance in the national knockout. I know Bridgie, they've got Bristol in the national knockout, and I think the following round clashes on the semi-final weekend.
Okay.
So knowing both Eklunds and Burton, those guys. So hopefully, I've got my fingers crossed that Dorset continue to do well, and maybe they miss the Bridgewater game, and if they get through, because Lintott will be in the blast as well. Aman Rayo, who I've seen on Tuesday, obviously with Gloucester, he's going to be in Gloucester squads, travelling around. So Bridgie potentially might not be at optimum strength, but they'll still absolutely have enough. They're a very good team. So,
and if you had to put a finger on the two semi-finalists in the National Counties Trophy, who would you say is going to win the Berkshire Dorset game, and who's going to win the Shropshire Suffolk one?
Look, I haven't seen much of Suffolk, so I don't think it's fair for me to sort of comment on them. Shropshire are very good in terms of, Hargrave up top's a very, very good cricketer. Tom Fell, obviously very experienced, good, solid player. Andre Bradford looked very good and had a really, really good white ball year last year. So no doubt Shropshire and Suffolk, it'll be a very good game. Berkshire, naturally, the powerhouses, I guess, of National Counties cricket, and Lynx, I have no doubt, will have them all ready to go and fire. That'll be a really, really good game, and that'll be one. If you're watching on the live stream, it will be well worth the watch. I think that'll be a very, very close game, and it'll come down to, in my opinion, somebody having a standout game. So one of the 22 players doing something standout, like a big 100, or someone scoring 50 off 20 balls to get the team up to a score.
Yeah, I think that Dorset bowling attack led by Joe Carson, going up against that Berkshire powerhouse of a batting lineup, I'm not saying that's where the game's going to be, but that's going to be the really interesting start one way or the other, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You look at, I'd probably say Dorset's bowling attack versus their top 3, top 4 will be a really, really good battle, I think.
Yeah, and I think putting the game at Finch Hampstead to it quite an interesting one. Chris Britt's home ground, who scored runs for fun in the home counties. It's a big scoring ground generally. That's what Berkshire are aiming for there. And then we look forward to a final up at Chester Broughton Hall in about 6 weeks' time, I think it is, which again is a ground with just runs, fingers crossed, available. But we've seen quite a change noticeably in the pitches over the last 2 or 3 weeks, haven't we? From that early season where it was dust bowls everywhere. You could just see in the scores the change over the last couple of weeks, couldn't you?
Yeah, they have, and I think again the early season weather that we had, probably most groundsmen were delighted with it. But then, as you said, they've played on it, and they've turned a bit more dusty and things. Whereas we've had a bit of weather in the last couple of weeks where they've just greened some pitches up, brought some life back to these pitches.
And what yourself at the moment, for those who don't know, Brad, not only is he headed up Wales National County, but he took the big move in the winter to move to the Cornwall League and play for Penzance. How are you handling the time pressures, Brad, in terms of there's a lot of travel involved, you're back and forth down to Penzance. How's that coming together after the first 7 or 8 weeks of doing it now?
Yeah. Look, I've had the experience of doing it in 2018. So I was there 16, 17, and 18, and in my last year, I did the drive back and forth on the train, and look, it is tough. It's a lot of driving and a lot of time spent on the train and away from family and things. But ultimately, I think when you join a club like Penzance, you're already aware of what your commitments are. So when I did join, I knew exactly what it would be like and how it would be, and we were speaking off air about trying to put the building blocks in. So when you've got a newish team, it's going to take a couple of weeks to sort of mold and stuff, and we're going brick by brick, I guess, each week to try and build our house, and hopefully by the end of the summer we'll we'll have built the house, and we will be where we want to be.
Not much different to that then, to what you've been doing with Wales National County. And I remember sort of spring last year when you guys went out to Spain and started putting those bricks in place. It's a very similar sort of project, isn't it?
It is. Last year, we obviously, when we went to Spain, it was probably a Red Bull focused tour, because we felt last year's team, I think we finished runners up by a couple of points and missed out on getting promoted. And then last year it was pretty much a shootout between us and Shropshire, and we didn't bat well first innings and let ourselves down, and then Shropshire got the win. And then it was a shootout then between Shropshire and Hereford in the last game. But those building blocks, absolutely. So last season's T20, there was 10 of the 15 had made debuts.
Yeah.
And again, this year, it's the similar sort of players. So your Ollie Rayners, your Cian Davis, those guys are still in the mix. So that experience that they gained last year has stood them in good stead for this year.
It's a lot of players to be debuting all the time, isn't it? Which is why you need those older heads around them.
It is. And look, ultimately, there's a lot of talented players, but then talent gets you to a certain point, and then you need the know-how. And that's where, adding people like Billy in and Zane and Henry now, who was outstanding last year in T20, and this year has gone up another level, I think. So, like I said, you add a couple of wise heads in there with the talent, and over time it'll come good.
Absolutely. And so we're going into that. We're in the summer. I can't believe I'm saying that. We're in the summer. The weather has changed. If you were to put your finger on where you want to be by the end of this white ball period, you obviously want to get into the Super 12s for the T20, and promotion is firmly up there for what you want in the Championship.
Yeah, spot on. I think the T20s, I mentioned it to our team last year. You could have your best team out on paper, and someone comes off and gets 50 or 30 balls and wins a game. It doesn't matter whether you've got your best 11 out or you've got a very talented group of 11 players. As showed, I guess, on Tuesday. Like I looked at Gloucester's team, and Dent played, Van Buren, Archie Bailey, Manreo, Tommy Borman. They're all staff players. So our boys coming up against them, it was a good test, and I thought we handled ourselves really well. And I think in the first game we probably give them a bit of a sniff to win, whereas we should have probably knocked that off 4 down with 2 overs to spare. But a little bit of inexperience, and that's fine, and that happens. But then we put that right in the second game then with a really comprehensive performance. So all about learning the T20s, but if we can get on a bit of a roll, I think T20 cricket's all about momentum. So hopefully the 2 games on Tuesday will set us up for Sunday.
Absolutely. We can finish where we started. Just how great is it to be able to say you've got that national county beating a first-class county? There was a number of them did it last year. You've done it now with a pretty much new squad to a certain extent, with all those youngsters. Just to be able to put that as a tick on the wall for all the boys, that's fantastic, isn't it?
It is, and even not just for Wales. I think you look at the general national county standard, and it's not far off. You've got some very, very talented players in national counties cricket that, well, as the challengers have shown, if you put a group of players together, and you've got time to gel them together, they can go and beat some very, very good sides. And Berkshire have done it to Middlesex. We beat Glamorgan a couple of years ago. So there's always teams winning. Oxford have gone on 1 game. So there's a lot of talented national counties cricket, and I think ultimately the big difference is doing it on that occasion, doing it on the big days, because those types of players get recognised for doing that.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about it time and time again. Those first-class players have the luxury of rocking in every day, training, netting, massage, physio, you name it. Whereas a lot of your boys, they've got jobs, university, and for them it's still a very much a part-time thing. And so to be able to get to that level, to be able to beat those first-class counties, it really is something.
It is. I've said it for years. I think they've got to juggle so much. You got work, and then you got uni, and then you've got exams, and then you play Saturday, and you got to travel somewhere Sunday, and then you play, and then you travel back, and then you've got to do work again. It's a huge commitment. So when you see people performing consistently in national counties cricket, I think hats off to them, because what you don't see behind the door is the travel back and forth. Whereas pros have that luxury of, okay, well, I won't play Saturday. I'll travel up, take my time, relax there, have a nice meal, sleep well, play Sunday, relax Monday, have a day off, then train again Tuesday. And as you said, the more balls you hit, it's got to help. So if you put 20, 30 national county cricketers into a professional environment and allow them a 1 year contract, and you watch them, the standard would just shoot right up, and those guys would compete with a lot of pros.
Absolutely. Your enthusiasm is clearly undiminished, Mr. Wadlan. You're still banging that drum for A, Wales national county, and B, national counties, which I'm very passionate about as well. Great to chat and catch up as always, mate, and look forward to seeing how you go against Oxfordshire at the weekend.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All the best, mate.
Cheers.